Hi, Kathy here from Kathy's Cute Creations. Today I'm going to show you how I did my Valentine cards for the Lisa Marie swap. And all I did was pick some fabrics. Now, I realized this is Christmas, but I liked it because of the envelopes. So I used it, flipped it over, and used the back part, my postcard, for the writing aspect. So I picked out some fabric. So I'm going to use this as my background. I really like this. I don't go with a specific size for the postcard. Now go through the regular snail mail. When you drop it off, you tell them to hand stamp it. This way it doesn't go through any machines and you don't lose anything. So that you can put buttons and things like that on it, which is what I did, or make it puffy, which is what I do. And all I did, I'm going to show you here, is I chose 5 fabrics today. Now these are going to be the things that I'm going to put on, the little embellishments. I use this 808 fusible. Now I wrote that on there because I bought this at Joann's a long time ago, and when it came, all they did was took it off of the board, a board, not this one, and just took out a whole bunch, like I bought yards of it. And then when I came home, I put it on this board and I wrote on it so I know what it is. But it's really, really stiff, okay? But don't let it fool you. Now it's one-sided with the glue. Once you iron that on your fabric, all of a sudden it adheres to your fabric and becomes soft, and you're gonna think, oh my gosh, it didn't work. I don't know what's up, but it will work. Once it cools off, then it gets stiff. And I've used it 3 and 4 pieces at a time. Now, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll measure my fusible after I measure my squares. So I'm going to measure this piece and this piece for the same size, and then I'll measure my fusible. Because remember, you don't want your fusible to be bigger than the fabric it's going on, because if you do that, it'll get glue on your ironing board or whatever surface you're ironing on, and you don't want that to happen because it'll gum it up and it's just a big old mess. So let's get started. I'm going to go to the other side of the table so I can show you after I've got it all cut out. And then also I am going to go ahead and I'm going to put hearts on mine, and Megan made my little templates. Alrighty, so I'm going to walk you through the process. The first thing I did was took just plain old typing paper and I made hearts. Just a bunch of different shapes of hearts. Here's 4 different shapes. 4 different sizes, not shapes, I'm sorry. Then I put them on this piece of board. Now this came in the 10-inch squares. So I just save these when they come in, the 10, the 5, whatever. And so I can go and use them for my templates. Then I laid this down, traced it out. See if you can see it. And then I ended up with 4 templates to start out the hearts. So that's where I go from here. Now, let me tell you, I use Micron, and I think they're all the same size. No, they're not. They're different. Okay, so let me show you the pens. This is what I write on my cards. Here's what I got right here. Hopefully you can see them. They're called Micron. Let me put one up. I got a black, a blue, and a red one. See if it'll focus on that. And these are fine tip, as you can see right there. See if that'll help to put it over there, over the white. I'm going to show you. See? Looks just like a pen mark. This one's an actual pen, and this is the micro. And what you do is, when you write on your card, you iron it, and this will adhere. A lot of people use this when they write their labels to identify their quilts when they're done, because this won't wash off in the wash. This is permanent and made for this. It is waterproof and it is fade proof. And these are fine lines. I've had these for, oh my gosh, since the 80s actually, and they haven't run out of ink. I've only, one of them I wore out, and I want to think it was a green one, but it's totally gone because I used it up, and I've got these 3 left. So this is what I'm going to mark on the back of my postcards. So the first thing that you do, let me put all this stuff aside here, is we're going to go ahead and we're going to take our fabric and you're going to trace it. Now don't use your Micron pencil. Those are not cheap. Just use your regular friction pen, whatever color you want. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull out blue and pink, because I know when I do this little heart right here, if I make it in this, I don't want blue, although it's going to come out, And if you don't have a spot that's flat, like I have a flat spot right here, then by all means, go ahead and iron all your stuff, because when you go to cut this out, this is going to be a booger to cut out. Let me tell you, when it wiggles and wobbles on you. So go ahead and iron all your fabric, and then come back. Do you need to get this squared up? No. It doesn't make any difference, because we're going to end up having a binding of some sort, and I'm going to make mine real simple. I'm going to make my sister and my daughter card, and I'm going to make multiple cards, and I really like these circles. So I'm going to make a couple cards out of these, if not more. And so I've already cut out, this is my leftover from some other ones, okay? And I'm using this back side. So all I'm going to do is put it up here and see about what does it measure. That's what I'm going to say to myself. And you know, you can do this where you make it and you flip it inside out. It's going to be your preference. Okay, so it looks like it's about right there. Okay, so let's see what size that is. Move my pens a second here. It's going to be, get my ruler set up right. That's going to be about 7 1/4. Now, since this ruler is not 7 1/4 and I want to lay the longer ruler that direction, then I'm going to swap it out for this one here, so I can go across it, because this is a 8, what am I got here? I got an 8 1/2. So I want to do 7 1/4. And it's not perfect, so it can be a little bit more, a little bit less. It doesn't make any difference. But my ruler up here to do it. And I also wanted to let you know, I'm going to be using batting between my top layer, which this is what that's going to be. This is my top layer. And I'm either going to do meandering, or I might even go around the circles here. So it can always be bigger, because it's going to shrink when you do that kind of thing. That's just a given. If you want to put Best Press or your favorite starch, you can go ahead and do that. I went ahead and I used Best Press. It has a real nice peach scent. Another really good idea is that if you do the batting, you can actually put essential oils in this. And so when this goes through the mail, they're going to smell that wonderful smell, because you know it only takes a drop for the essential oils. So let's see if I can get this cut. And like I say, if I mess up, no big deal, because I can always use this for something else. Let's see if I can get it cut across here. And let's see if that worked. I'm going to find out before I pick up my ruler. And yes, it did. Okay, now if you want to use a regular postcard, this postcard is 4 by 6. And then you would cut your fabric out approximately a 1/2 inch bigger overall, because as you make it, it's going to shrink, and then you're going to trim it up, which will cut it down to this size. Just be mindful that whenever you put your little hearts or whatever you're going to put, let's say I was going to put a couple of hearts on there. Let's say I was going to, just for an example, overlap them. Then these two would work, but you're going to want to make sure that you don't get them in your seam allowance. That's what you're looking for. Okay, you want to make sure it stays in the card. All right, so when it comes to cutting out the 808 fusible here, I lay it down. I take my fabric, which is this one here. I'm going to pull it just a little bit this direction so we can get it all on the camera. Now, I don't need it on the edge because I don't want the glue to ooze off. So I just go over a little bit, probably about 1/4 inch, because it'll be 1/8 on each side of your fabric. I take my pencil, I mark it, and I laid down my fabric, the size of it, and I found out that I can get 2 of these and probably a little bit left over, and the little bit left over could actually be for, drawing a blank, for a bookmark. So I go ahead and I lay this down. And let's see if I can line that up. Now you can always cut off a little bit if you make it too small, but if you make it way too big, but if you make it too small, then you can't add to it. So I go ahead and I line it up along the bottom. I've already got my little marks down there, and then just cut it. And so I'm going to use this. Let me make sure it's okay up here at this end. Looks good. Looks good on both ends. So I'm going to cut it because this is going to give me 2. And I went ahead and I cut out fabric for 4. 2 this size and 2 a little bit smaller. Now you don't have to just do this at Valentine's Day. You can send this out as Christmas cards, a special birthday. Wouldn't a grandchild that lives in another state, they would just think this is great if they got a little card from grandma on their birthday. Or even just a little special card saying, I'm thinking of you. I think that'd be great. And then I'm going to put a little mark here. Just so I've got a place to line my ruler up. Like that, so I can get them approximately the same size. They don't need to be perfect. Okay, so if I lay it down there, it looks good. Make sure I can see my pencil mark. Okay, I'm going to line it up here at the bottom. All right, let's put this off. And remember now, I use a couple of sheets on mine for the stiffness of it. Okay, so you can see that these are 2 different sizes. These are the different sizes of postcards that I'm going to make. I'm making 2 different ones. So the first thing I got to do is put this out, and I'm going to put it upside down because it wants to fold, so I don't want it to fold. Let's go this way with it. And I'm going to just size it up, is all I'm doing. It should be a little bit bigger than the paper. Okay. And then put this down. And then I want to go over a little bit more. Just a little bit. There we go. Like that. And then I'm going to size it up. This is the way you do all of them. And then just cut it. That's it. So I'm going to do it 3 times because I'm going to do it 6 times total for this size because I'm going to use 3 pieces of that stuff. All right, so you guys go ahead and do as many as you want or just do 1 and wait and see what you want to do. All right, and then I'll be back. Alrighty, I came back because you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute. If she cut them all to fit this size, then you've wasted it for this. But think about it. This is the same size as that. So all I did, in other words, this postcard's going that way, and this one's going this way, because this is the way you're going to read it. This is the long way. I just turned it sideways, and then I'm going to cut it off of here. That's all. And all 3 of these, I stacked them up. And they're not all perfect, but that's okay. Because we're not going for perfection here. Because remember, you're going to be downsizing it and trimming it. Now here's where all those little pieces of batting that you got left over from your projects comes in handy. Here's a strip that I have. And if I lay this down, this is my first one. I can see that it's going to fit it. The whole thing is going to fit. Okay. So I put it at the bottom. I know it's going to fit. And you know, this can always be a little bit bigger when you cut it off. Just take it and slice it. That's it. 1 done, just like that. Oh, sure enough, and look at that. 1 piece of little bit of batting. There we go. I got all 4 of my postcards ready to do quilting on. So this is cut out from another project. So all I do, I just put it on a board here. Yeah, this is how I make up stuff. Okay, so that's a pretty good size. Now this has got, it's one side fusible again. Okay, it's really, really soft. It's 100% cotton. And I think you can see it's got the little bit of bubbles there. And so this is, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take this and I'll fuse these 2 pieces together. And the reason being, this batting won't get down inside where the needle goes down in, which will keep my little, I call them fuzz balls, to a minimum. Because once this is adhered, and it makes a little bit of thickness now. So if that's what you're interested in doing, you can do that. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not, and a lot of times, unless you've bought a strip, I think it's called a glider, unless you've bought one to put over your table, a lot of times this is hard to move because it's so small. And now another thing that you can do is, let's say that I wanted to make, oh my gosh, maybe like a dozen. Okay, all of the same type here. I would have just took this fabric and cut out like a half a yard or something. And then put my batting on it and did the whole thing, and then when I was completely finished, I'd go and cut all them out individually, the postcards, if you don't want to do each one individually. That's just another idea to do. All right, let me take it over here to the sewing machine so I can go ahead and start quilting it. Now I'm going to bring out my scrap pieces, and I'm going to flip. This is what this one looks like. I'm going to flip it on the wrong side because this is the side that I want to do the writing on. This is where I'm going to use my pink pen, and I kind of like this. Now I can do one or two things. I can see through this fabric. So I could either fussy cut it so that my hearts are shaped like this. Now let me see if I can show you when I flip it over. So my heart, here's what my heart looks like, and it would look like that. Or I can just make my heart straight across like this, and my heart would be like that, with no rhyme or reason. And because I can see through this, I can actually position it myself. Now let's say I wanted a bigger heart. So first off, I got to try and see if my heart is big enough if I want to do it diagonally. So if I wanted to do it, it will do it. It just barely makes it right there, but I can see that I can get that size of a heart. Let's make sure it's exactly where I want everything, and it looks like it is. So let me go ahead and I'm going to mark it first. So just take your pen, and if you don't have a friction pen, you can use a pencil. If you have to use an actual pen, I would go with a light one or barely touch it, just enough that you can see it to cut it out. Unless you're really good at cutting out hearts. I hate to say this, but I'm not good at cutting out anything. Yeah, that's not true. I could cut a piece of cake and eat it. Okay, so there's that, and now I can see up here close where everything is going to be when I cut it out. So that's pretty good. Looks like two eyes and a nose. Alrighty, and maybe I want to do 3D effect and build on it. So then I could put this one over here and do that. So let's do that. And this is the way that we're going to do it. And you know, in my case, because if you watched my Saturday Live, you saw that I was making hearts for a Christmas tree. Well, it's going to be a heart tree. But anyway, I can take all of my leftovers and continue making hearts and set them aside. So go ahead and mark all your fabric. And just use up your scraps. You don't have to use up a big piece. This was a leftover fat quarter from Megan right here. So I can either go down the corner here, or I can go up here at the top and use it for my hearts. But remember, now I'm going to flip it over upside down because I don't want to be seeing it. And this is going to be my right side, and this is my wrong side. So alrighty, so I have all four of these done. This is what they look like at this point. They're not trimmed up or anything. Red one. Now okay. This is the one that's got all the sparkles in it. And I think I'm going to put it one here. And then I have a red check, which looks pretty good. The gingham right there. And I think I want to go ahead and just put another little one. And we will make it a white with hearts like this to represent 3. And I think what I'll do is I will just put that on there. Now, in order to get the puffiness, which is what I want to do, let me get a little bit of batting here. Take my batting like this, and I am going to, let me get my scissors over here. So all I do, because I want to make this a little puffy, but I need to make sure, and look how I'm cutting it. I'm going right around it on the inside, because I have to grab it. If I don't grab it, it'll shift like on the inside. I don't want it to be doing any kind of shifting. So all I'm doing is trim around it. This is the right side. Just making sure that it goes underneath it. And now if you want, you can use glue or fusible to hold this on, but I don't really want to do that because I don't think I'm going to need it. All right, so I make sure that the whole thing is covered. I need to cut a little bit right here. Trim it like that. And then that one can lay down on there. And then if I want to do the same thing to that, to make it puffy, I can do that. And if this is going to go on top of that, you could actually leave out the stuff on that side, but I don't. I go ahead and put the whole thing, just cut this out. Okay, so I have 2 pieces. So I'll wait on this one and stuff it here in a minute, but the point is in order to sew these, I have to decide, do I want this one on the top or do I want that one on the top? Which one do I want on the top? Do I want this one with the red? And if that's the case, I want to sew this one down first. And I found that when I was making one, and this is the position, now all I'm doing is trying to keep it within the borders of this. You know, it's not going to be in any of the 1/4 inch. If I trim it down some, I'll sew this one first, and I'm going to start so that this covers it. I'm going to start on the left hand side here, and I've got my freehand on. But if I want to do satin stitch, then I would do a satin stitch around it, or a zigzag, or a fancy stitch. So let me go ahead and do a fancy stitch. I'm going to change my foot out real quick. Now I went ahead and I picked my quilting applique stitch for this project. Just lock it into place. And I went ahead and I made my width 2.5 and my length is 1.8. I think that's big enough. Now keep in mind, this isn't going to be sewn or anything. You could actually go ahead and applique this on, you know, with the fusible, because you could put a straight stitch all the way around it. It's not going to get washed and worn or anything. At least I wouldn't think that somebody's going to be washing it and wearing it out. Oh my goodness, my bobbin thread's almost empty. Well, let's lock it into place and let's change that out real quick, I guess. I didn't realize I was almost empty. Oop, I am almost empty. Okay, so let me just get that changed out real quick. Now I'm just using cotton thread, but if you guys want, you can use embroidery thread on this. It'll have a little bit of a light sheen. But I'm just using plain old regular 100% cotton. Also in my bobbin. I need to have my foot come up so that I can adjust each time I quit, I guess. There we go. And then when I come to this area right here, let's see. I'm going to see if I need to decrease my... Sometimes you need to... There we go. I'm going to turn it. There. Oh, this one worked out fine, so I won't need to do that. Sometimes you have to decrease the width of your fabric when you're doing this. So, if you guys been following me along, I was in the process of embroidering this fabric to make a bag for shopping. But you know, the more I got to thinking about it while I was working on it, I'm not going to do that because I'd have to cut it up and lose too much of it. So, I've got some fabric that I'm going to use for a bag, and it's the fabric that you would usually use for, it's like a canvas type fabric. So, I'm going to be showing you a video on how to make a bag to take to the store. The county that is it west of us? I think it's west of us. They started charging for the bags. So instead of that, a lot of people can just take their bags and then use them. And that's what I'm going to do, is just make a bunch of bags out of different kinds of fabric. Now you can make them out of cotton and reinforce them if you want. They've also got bottoms. You can take a piece of cardboard or you can take a piece of hard plastic and you can put a bottom in yours. I think I need to come one more time before I turn that. Let's see. Okay, we're going to test it here. All right, it needs to go there. If you want the bottom to be like that. Otherwise, you don't even have to do that. But this one I'm going to show you the bag that I'm going to more or less copy. I think it's a Walmart bag. But that's the one I'm going to use, and I'm going to copy that. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change this stitch out of the quilting stitch, or excuse me, the applique stitch, and I'm going to take it back to my straight stitch. But before I sew, I need to lift my needle to find out where it's going to come down, because see how it moved over to the left? So I want to move it over to the right, and this is where I'm just going to lock it into place. But it doesn't need to be that much locked into place because, you know, it's not going anywhere. And then cut that, and then I'm going to lay my next one to it, and I'm going to show you how this has a little bit of thickness. Well, you can see it right there. See how that's got a little bit of thickness? You can tell it's like fluffy. And if you wanted to, you could have went ahead and quilted that. It wouldn't have made any difference. It's just going to be your preference. I kind of like to leave it like it is. Okay, let's see. I've got 2 spots that got started. And actually, this one didn't pucker like my other one did, so it might have something to do with the fabric itself. But now it's time to put that red one. And so this is the one I'm going to put next. And all I'm trying to do is just match it up with the bottom down here. They kind of go together. Pull it down a little bit. Let me take a look at it here. Like that. That looks good just like that. And since I'm going to have this one over the top of it, but come down a little bit like that, then I know that I want to start right in here, which will be covered. Okay, so I'm going to take it and I'm going to turn it like this, because it's going from, my needle goes from straight to the left, and I can change it to the right if I want to and go the other direction. But I'm just going to go this way. And I could have changed this out to a red instead of a pink, but it's not going to be that much of a difference. So let me put it back on my quilting and then line it up, because the first thing it does when it starts is it goes on its straight stitch when it locks itself into place. And that's what I do first. And then I'll just start. And I kept the same, oh, let me see, I need to increase my, so I kept the same length and width. This is just a 12-inch, this is just a number 12 needle. I haven't changed anything. It doesn't need to be any thicker. Doesn't need to be a higher number, because nothing's really changed. It's not like I'm using anything super duper thick that would warrant that. Now I'm going to go ahead and move my needle and my foot over. There we go. Just like that. And you can use a zigzag stitch if you don't have this stitch. Most sewing machines do have the stitch. I think even the older ones with the cams and everything have this stitch. But you can use any stitch you want. You can even free motion around it if you want to. There we go. And I have it sort of lift so I can turn it real easy. Looks like my stuffing's coming out. I'm going to need to trim that because I don't want to have a big bulk. It must have gotten off a little bit. So I'm just going to trim it right here. Like that. No, that's not going to work. Okay, let's see here. There we go, like that. Okay, now we'll just continue with it. Just be careful, and I'm watching, trying to get on the edge. Just turn it a little bit. You got to constantly turn it, that's fine. Turn it this way. And then, there we go. Bring it up so I know where it's going to go when it goes down. Just slowly curve it. Now, if you didn't want to do the padding, or the, excuse me, not the padding, but the batting the way that I did, what you could do is go ahead and sew it on there, and where this opening is, you could actually put some little polyfill in there. You can do it either way. Now it looks like it might have that little bit of fold in there. Let's see. Yeah, it's got a little bit of a tweak there. Okay. Let me lift that up, change it back to the 3. Go like this here. There we go. Then I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to put my last one on there. And what did I just do with it? Oh, there it is. It's upside down. Okay. So, put that on there. Just decide, figure out where you want to put it. I'm going to put it right there. I could put a little higher up like that. That looks pretty good. Let's see. I'm trying to think if I want to go smaller with my dot. You know what? I mean my heart. I'm thinking about using this heart instead right here. This little purple one right there. That looks cute. Let me cut a fresh piece of batting for that. Okay, here you go. And what I did was I went ahead and I put double the batting on that. Let's see if that's not going to be too hard. I might want to just stitch it down now that I'm looking at it. I think I need to trim a little bit more. See what the back looks like here? I think it needs a little trimming. Okay, so there it is. And see, it's not that bad. And it's just a zigzag. I could go over it again and do a satin stitch, but I like it. It's fine. Just need to take that little piece of thread right off of there that I have. And I managed to make it with all the bobbin before it ran out. And this is how much bobbin I had left right there. So that was pretty good. I had a pretty fair warning that I was running out. So that one there is finished. So now I'm going to set it aside before I trim. Well, actually, let me just go ahead and trim it for you, and I'll show you. Now, the reason that we're doing the trimming at this point is because we're going to be putting the fusible on it. And so now's when we need to know the size. So we'll trim this. I'll go to this size here. And I'm just lining it up the best I can. It's not going to be perfect because it's going to be trimmed off here. Now, if you're wanting your hearts to be closer to the edge, now would be the time that you come in and trim. And then I'm lining it up based on what I just cut. And before my heart, it looks like I got 1 3/4, and I don't know if I can get it 1 3. I can't get 1 3/4 for the bottom, so it's going to have a bigger space on the top than it is at the bottom. All right, hold on 1 second. Smidgen. And then that's going to be the size that I want for my card. And let me tell you what that is. That is about 8 1/4 by 6 1/4. And I could go ahead and put another little heart down here if I wanted to, but I kind of like that, and you can tell it's pretty puffy, so I do like that. And if you wanted to write somebody's name, you could put their name in there. All right, so I'm going to go over there and I'm going to cut my fusible, and we're going to cut it the size of that. All right, I have all 3 of the pieces of fusible on there. I have it hanging off a little. The fabric is hanging a little bit off the bottom of the fusible on the bottom as well as on the left hand side. I'm going to go right up against it, cut it. Then I'm going to rotate my mat because I don't want to be moving any of this. So I can go up against the edge there and cut it off. Move aside that. There we go. And then I'm going to go over there and I'm going to iron this, making sure the sticky's on the back, to that, just like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. So let me get the back done. So I'm going to do the same concept, a little bit off the back. So let's do that. Whoops. I gotta learn how to press harder on this stuff, boy. I don't know what I'm worried about. Okay, let's turn this. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these and I'm going to put it on the back of this. So I'm going to do that. And this, for starters, I'm going to go iron both of these like that. And I'm going to press it. I'm not going to be pushing on the iron. I'm just pressing to release the glue. Alrighty, real quick. So, see how it's kind of flimsy? Now, I put it on both sides. And it's hard. Because this one already dried up. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the two together. So, this is the part that's facing up that you can actually read. the little cards to Santa Claus because it's Christmas, but I want it on this side so you can't read it, which is the back side. And I'm going to put the two together like this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, seam is the double-sided fusible. Let me get it out of here. And you always put it in something, because if you don't, the air will literally dry that out, that paper. Otherwise it won't be flexible. And I believe that will fit right there. So what I'm going to do, this just works like this. So you're going to make sure that the parts that you can see, and you can, when you fuse this, okay, so first you start it, and you take the paper off of this side, and then you lay this down, and in my case, all I'm going to do is rub it on there, because that doesn't even require an iron. Then start the next sheet off, if I can get a start on it, otherwise I'm going to have to get a pin. Let's see if I can get a, let's just score it. All that means is tearing it to get a grip on it here. So you take it, and I've already, let's see here. Ooh, I went a little heavy there on my pin and tore some of the, there we go, the fusible. As you can see it right there. Let's see here. There we go. There's some stiff stuff there. Okay, just take it and grab it and slowly pull it off. Like that. And then take this piece here and lay it down on there, just like that. There you go. And now I will go over there and I will press this. And it's a choice. You can press it or you can leave it and then just finish it off. And I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to do, I'm trying to think if I should have put a fancy stitch all the way around there. Let me take it over here to the sewing machine and I'll look at my stitches and see what I want to stitch around there. Alrighty, so here it is. I went in and I put a new bobbin in it, and it's pretty, you can hear it, it's pretty stiff. It's not flimsy any longer. Now when I iron my fusible, I always put this kind of cheesecloth over the top so that none of that glue will get on my iron. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look to see which kind of stitch we're going to do here. Alright, let's do the satin stitch and we'll see how that turns out. And I put my length at 0.5 and my width is 4.5. Side of the fabric, And I put my length on 1.8 so that, let's go down even further than that. And this is just nothing but a straight stitch. That's the way it locks it in. Okay, that's it. We're going to take a look at it. I'm not crazy about the ends of it, but I think it'll be all right. Here we go. So there it is. Got the edges. Now I'm going to show you how we're going to put the mark on the back. Alrighty, so what you want to do is you want to decide, do you want to write a lot? Do you want to write a little? Do they have a big address or whatever? Take your pen and you're going to mark it. So my sister does not have a large address. So all I'm going to do is go straight down the card like this. And I'll write on this side, and then on this side here, my return address will be here. So you're just going to make lines to put the address. That's all you're doing. And I always do a couple lines. So you'll have the name line. You'll have the street. If you guys do apartments or suites or something like that extra, then I would put 4. Or you can put your zip code on the 4th one. That's it. That's all there is to it. And then I'll iron that and it'll stay put. And then I'll go ahead and write a little message and iron it. And then it'll stay on there also. And that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up some more and then I'll show them all to you over here on the other table. Okay, so I wanted to put a real quick little note in here. At this stage, if you're going to put buttons on it, this is when you want to do it before you finish. Before you put anything else on the back of it, you want to put everything right now, if that's what your intent is. Okay, so that was that. Woohoo! I'm done! Look at what I made! Okay, so I made this one for my daughter. I made this one for my friend at work. You watch, I'm going to mess them up, y'all, and I'm not going to get them right. Did I write something on the back? Yes, this is for my sister.
Hey, what about me?
This is for her boyfriend. And then this is for my lovely granddaughter. And then that's the stack that I'm sending tomorrow for the swap with Lisa Marie. So I've had a lot of fun making these. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.